Hello and welcome to Comic Book Herald's Crack and Krakoa, the series where I explore the Dawn of X, the 2019 situation for Marvel's X-Men. Today I'll be digging into the 2019 release of Marauders number 2 by Jerry Dugan, Matteo Lally, Federico Blee, Corey Petit, and Tom Miller, as I continue to explore all elements of the exciting Dawn of X. Spoilers for Marauders number 2 and X-Force number 1 will follow. Today I'll answer: who is the Hellfire Club's Red Queen King? Where does Marauders fit into the Dawn of X continuity? And predictions and theories for what this means for the future of Dawn of X. Thanks for joining today. I'm your host, Dave Busing, founder and editor-in-chief of comicbookherald.com. You can find all sorts of Hickman X-Men era reading orders and analysis and guides here on the YouTube channel. Please consider liking and subscribing. Check out the X-Men playlist for all the Crack and Krakoa. You can also find these on the podcasts at Best Comics Ever from Comic Book Herald, or of course, go to the show notes, check out the links to the X-Men content I have over on Comic Book Herald, where I am tracking both X-Men continuity, Marvel continuity, and all sorts of comic continuity as it may interest you. Thanks for your support, as always. In the meantime, let's move into Marauders number 2. Who is the Hellfire Club's Red Queen and King? Marauders number 2 focuses on the power dynamics of the Hellfire Club, with Emma Frost reprising her role from X-Men Black and putting fellow council member Sebastian Shaw firmly in place. Emma loves rubbing it in Sebastian's face. The two have a very hostile working relationship, I think one would say. They've been together as part of the Hellfire Club, as far back as the Dark Phoenix saga in Uncanny X-Men around 1980, but since that time, Emma and Sebastian have had spats upon spats, oftentimes very violently so, and Emma's been in a position of power now where Sebastian, his wealth is slipping a little, his power is slipping a bit. Emma loves rubbing that in, and we see that a lot in Marauders number 2. There's also been a wild amount of back and forth about the mysterious third council member Emma requested, and in Marauders number 2, we see Emma and Sebastian considering options for the Red King or Queen. Emma holds Shaw accountable for activities designed to boost his personal wealth and not in line with the aims of the Krakoan nation. It's an interesting exploration of all these villainous mutants that Charles Xavier, Magneto, and Moira welcomed onto Krakoa in the pages of House of X and Powers of 10 and onto their quiet council. I think in a lot of ways we've started to see now in Dawn of X, for example, in Fallen Angels with Mr. Sinister, of course here in Marauders with Sebastian Shaw, some of these council members, and there are others, Apocalypse in the pages of Excalibur and other books, they have their own motivations. They have their interests, right? These are people who have not played nicely with the X-Men in the past. To put it mildly, what are they doing on the side to advance their own interests, and how is that being sort of reined in to keep peace within Krakoa, right? Shaw is one who has really sought wealth above all else, so it's not something that comes particularly naturally to him. Here we see Emma sort of using him, leveraging that to her own benefits while also playing against him. So Emma puts the Marauders on the case of ensuring Sebastian's shipments go where they're supposed to. The Marauders are working to prevent Sebastian Shaw from sending Krakoan medications to the wealthy instead of the needy. I believe in this instance, Sebastian was going to send it to some East Coast wealthy elites as opposed to, individuals in Africa. So we see the Marauders attacking a ship here, which is defended by armed guards, as well as that amazing Marvel villain, Batroc the Leaper, who makes the tragic mistake of kicking Storm right in the belly. You know how Marauders is the fun book? It's the fun X-Men book for sure. First off, they're fighting Batroc, inherently interesting and kind of fun. He's pretty goofy French villain, but he's also he's very capable, more often than not as a mercenary. But Pyro bites Batroc right on the arm in defense of Storm's honor. Not that she needs it as she threatens to put Batroc in leg casts, but this book just has a goofy sensibility to it. There's an energy to Marauders that Dugan and Lowley are bringing to this that is extremely fun in a way that I don't think maybe New Mutants can approach. And actually, the Hickman-written X-Men, oddly enough, has been more lighthearted. So I guess the Hickman-written issues have definitely had more of a sense of humor about them so far. But otherwise, Marauders is the only one that's really playing in that ballpark, despite the fact that these are, this Marauders is a team on essentially refugee missions and helping those in need. All this builds to the final reveal of the issue, which is that Emma already has her committed Red Queen, even as Sebastian teases the possibility to others. And boy, does Emma love rubbing it in his face that whatever individual is in Sebastian's bed is not going to get this position. And as expected, it's Kate Pryde. For a few moments, this issue seems to confirm that it's not going to be Kate Pryde until, well, it is. In the immortal words of Denny Green, they are who we thought they were. Given the amount of wild conjecture I put into the possible reveal of this position, I'm mildly disappointed the Red Queen was the obvious answer, although I won't disagree that it makes plenty of sense. Where does Marauders fit into the Dawn of X continuity? What's interesting about Marauders number 2? So obviously it follows in the wake of X-Force number 1, where we saw, Professor Xavier was seemingly killed. We get a confirmation in a handful of books here that is at least what the X-Men believe, or the mutant kind believes to have happened. It's notable that when Bishop tells the Marauders of Xavier's assassination, they aren't certain he can be brought back. Bobby expresses faith in the Five, but it would seem no one actually knows, including what we now know are 2 council members, Storm and Kate, who have learned this news, and they seem pretty shocked and surprised as well. So, I talked in the X-Force number 1 review that I'm like 99% sure we're not going to do a Professor X is dead story. I am extremely confident in that. Nonetheless, I did think maybe Storm would kind of know the backup protocols, right? And there's not a ton said here. It's a small scene, but the appearance at least is that they actually don't know how Charles comes back from that, which I find pretty interesting. And obviously we're going to see this explored in more detail once X-Force number 2 comes out. What's next for Marauders? Well, there's still a lot of vacancy on the Hellfire Trading Company org chart. I've literally never been so excited to see an org chart in my life. It's the most exciting aspect to me, taking the conjecture around the Red Queen King and transitioning it now to bishops and knights. I mentioned before how this is very similar to Checkmate by Greg Rucka and Jesus Sayas, DC Comics book from the mid-2000s, and it puts a lot of interesting sort of opportunity into just who's going to be named, what characters are going to fill these roles, and what differences will be made across the Hellfire organization once we get bishops and knights filled out. Future issues of Marauders keep teasing that the Black Bishop, who would be the sort of right hand of Sebastian Shaw, is going to be picked next. And I swear, if that's actual Bishop, who is very much in this comic, I'm going to spit out my coffee. That is way, way, way too on the nose. I don't think that's what they mean when they keep saying we're going to see the Black Bishop, despite the fact that Bishop is playing a role in this book, a very sort of subtle and slow one. Bishop's appearances and investigation, we saw in Marauders number 1, we see him pop back up here, but it's kind of unclear. We got a time traveler on this team. There's more to be done with that for sure. There is one nice reveal here, and that's Emma's bringing brother Christian Frost into the mix as her White Bishop. I was really surprised to learn Christian actually debuted in the Grant Morrison-written New X-Men number 139 with art by Phil Jimenez, and not the 2003-2004 Emma Frost solo series that I primarily know him from. Emma comes from a very wealthy, very succession-y HBO Succession family, and from what I remember, she's definitely closest to Christian, who suffers at the hands of their father as well. Christian is a gay man who more recently has actually developed mutant powers of his own. It makes sense for Emma to bring him in a position of trusted power, given the family connection, given that they've been closer, or as close as members of the Frost family seemingly can be over time. I think that's a nice addition, and it makes sense. But otherwise, it's a basically totally open game. Other Hellfire picks, I would have said Ileana Rasputin for Kate as the Red Bishop, but Magic's in space with the New Mutants. So honestly, it kind of feels like we have the whole of Marvel mutant kind, at our disposal to pick. So I'm going to throw it to the listeners here. What do you think? If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and comment. Who do you think might be in consideration for Hellfire Trading Company? I already did my piece on who I thought the Red Queen or King might be. I think all those options from that earlier Kraken Krakoa edition, I remember talking about Selene, the Red Queen. Potentially, maybe that's who Sebastian's got back in his suite. There's a lot of options. Omega Red, right? All these weird and wild players who could enter these spaces. I expect it'll be smaller scale with bishops and knights. We're probably not going to get like I threw out the Shadow King as a wild red king pick. Be pretty weird if the Shadow King was like Emma's knight. I don't think that's likely. But let me know what you think in the comments. I'm curious to hear from everyone there. I think all in all, though, Marauders is the non-Hickman written Dawn of X book that I'm enjoying the most so far. I'm intrigued by all of the power dynamics and drama that comes with the Hellfire Club. I'm enjoying the energy and the comedy of this book so far, and I really just like the Marauders lineup. I mean, Kate Pride, Storm, Pyro, Lockheed, Iceman, they work well together. Now Bishop. So I'm looking forward to more Marauders in a way that, well, just more so than, what else is out there from Dawn of X. I mean, like I said, there's a lot of interesting stuff to come, particularly in X-Force number 2 as it follows up on what was the biggest reveal of the first wave of Dawn of X. But otherwise, I'm digging Marauders. Let me know what you think, and thanks for listening. If you like the YouTube channel, please like and subscribe. If you like listening to this, please subscribe to the Best Comics Ever Comic Book Herald podcast, or as always, just go on to comicbookherald.com. You can find Dawn of X reading order, Hickman X-Men reading order, and of course, all sorts of content and analysis over time. So, thank you everybody for listening, and as always, enjoy the comics.